decided to follow.
Then another year it starts again. Well, this is different.
We shall definitely be talking to those wonderful people. Once again, we urge you to share the feed on Facebook.
Hi there, I'm Faida, and today we're going to be talking about the African diaspora in Mexico.
Whether UK likes it or not, I have to leave this country.
I became a member and a chief of the Vice Lord all in one day.
All these guys wins out of the north at Midway Airport.
His father.
Okay, kids, we have had to come to an end of this beautiful. Sorry, I had myself on mute. Thank you all for joining us this evening. My name is Senna. This is the Progressive Mind Show. Today we're going to be talking to two candidates who are running for office. Our episode is titled The Chicago Aldermaic Elections, and we have two gentlemen who are vying for office, respectively, for the Ward 4 and Ward 9 here in the beautiful city of Chicago. We'll go to Captain Mike, and then right after that, my co-host Angie is here with me to handle the conversation. Please be part of the community building agenda. Captain Mike, please take it from here.
All right. Weather right now at Midway Airport, looking at 45 degrees. Winds are out of the south at just about 5 miles an hour. Really nice night. And really nice day today. It was about 15 degrees above normal temperature. Normal temperatures this time of year are around 33 degrees. So we're pretty much going to be above that all week. So that's the good part, and not too much downside. Maybe a little rain, and maybe a little rain turning into snow a little later in the week. But let's get into that. For the rest of tonight, we're looking at a low of about 40 degrees. Tomorrow, there's a chance of a chance of rain, about 45 degrees on our high, low about 38. Thursday, maybe a little messy. That's going to be the messiest day of the week, where we're going to have rain, maybe getting mix of rain, snow, and possibly turning into snow later in the day. Winds are out of the north, pretty windy. Friday, maybe a slight chance of some snow early on, but not too bad of a day. Saturday, we're going to get a peak of the sun. Won't see too much sun, be pretty cloudy all week. Nice day. Sunday, same thing, high 42, which is still above our average. Monday, a chance of rain. You may see it. It may get wet. There's a possibility into Tuesday where we also may get a possibility of rain, which is better than snow. So let's take advantage of what we can while we can. So really a mild winter so far. All right, get into sports. The Bulls will be playing tomorrow, but other than that, the Bears season is ended. They'll get the first pick in the draft. So football is over for Chicago, leaning into basketball, and then we'll hope for an early spring and get into the baseball season. Now let's talk about the health and fitness report. Today, it may get a little spicy, so those of you who have children may want to cover their ears. We're going to talk about foods that could be important to the male sexual health. Very important, especially as we get a little bit older, and for you younger single guys. Well, first, bananas. They have a lot of potassium, and that's good for your circulation. Spinach, that also increases blood flow, which is very important to certain regions. There has been a study that shows men who drink 2 to 3 cups of coffee are 42% less likely to experience erectile dysfunction due to the caffeine in that beverage. So those of you who aren't coffee drinkers may want to think about trying to start to drink some more coffee. Tomatoes, they help lower the chance of prostate cancer. Very important. A French study shows hot sauce and spicy foods, they contain a compound in chili peppers called capsaicin that has been shown to increase the size of sex organs and decrease belly fat in study animals. So that's a good thing. Get rid of that belly fat. So anything that helps me there, I'm going to go for. I'm going to try it out, let you guys know. Watermelon, a rich source of citrulline, and that's an amino acid that helps erections by increasing the blood flow down there. Ginger, that can also improve blood flow and artery health. Pomegranates, they also support blood flow. Green tea contains a lot of catechin, which decreases belly fat and increases desire by increasing blood flow to certain other dark chocolate.
Whatever his little segment, I guess.
Cacao increases mood, boosting serotonin, and coca also increases blood flow. Oatmeal, that contains L-arginine, which is a compound that is used to treat erectile dysfunction. So naturally, we don't have to get any blue pills, so eat oatmeal. That's going to help. Pine nuts, rich in zinc. People with high zinc levels have been shown to have higher sex drives than those with lower zinc levels. Cherries clean out your arteries of plaque, which increases the blood flow. Wine, red wine can elevate your testosterone levels. Not too much, because too much alcohol can also decrease blood flow. So there has to be the right amount, just maybe 2 to 3 glasses of wine. And wine is also rich in antioxidants, which increase blood flow by relaxing the artery walls. So these are just some of the foods that can increase the male sex drive and sexual health for gentlemen looking to improve their performance and overall health. So with some of those tips, Sina, we're going to go back to you. And
welcome back to the show. Again, this is the Progressive Minds, where we build our community. Know your candidates, meet your candidates. The 2023 Aldermaic elections is on the way. This year, we are also going to be voting for the mayor of Chicago. So on this platform, you're going to be seeing some of your candidates. We have reached out to a lot of the candidates. I must say this, that on the Progressive Minds show, we give equal opportunity to all candidates, all officials, or all individuals who are vying or want to vie for official offices or basically official offices or any type of elections. And so we have reached out to almost all candidates who are running for the same office to give them the opportunity to meet communities, meet their fellow colleagues, to talk about their intentions and why they're running for office. And we have gotten responses from some. And so when you see these individuals and these candidates on the platform, is because these are the ones that have accepted to be on the show. And so in the month of January and February, you'll be seeing a lot of them. Captain Mike, we really want to thank you for giving us the updates. And right now, we will go to our first candidate in the presence of Cameron Barnes, who is running for Ward 9. Before that, I would like to introduce our beautiful queen, Angie Mims, who is our co-host. Angie, good evening and welcome to the show. It is going to be an interesting evening.
Indeed it is. Good evening to everybody. We're so honored and excited to be able to have Cameron Barnes here, who is in fact the 26-year-old candidate for running for alderman. He is a graduate of Central State University. I believe that is in Ohio. He's also a key player with Rainbow Push. And so I don't want to take over, but I want to hear from Mr. Cameron Barnes. Ladies and gentlemen, Cameron Barnes, thank you for coming on to the show.
Well, I'm certainly appreciative, Miss Angie, and to all of those who make this this platform possible. Thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here. Y'all are making me feel special, and I'm grateful to be able to use this platform to share our historic campaign for the 9th Ward Aldermanic seat in 2023 election.
Awesome. Before Angie continues, I know Captain Mike is here and probably may have a question or two, or maybe just curious. I don't know if you've ever met Barnes, Mr. Barnes, or heard of him. Captain Mike, I don't know if you have a word before you leave.
Oh, I believe he's running for the 9th Ward Alderman, was it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. I'm in the 3rd Ward, so it's not really affecting me. But questions. I'm looking forward to just hearing your ideas and how you feel that you're gonna make Chicago better. So I'm just gonna be quiet and listen to what's going on.
And I think that thank you, Captain Mike. Angie, I think we heard Captain Mike clearly when he was giving his segment, right?
Oh yes, I was gonna comment on a few things.
All right, go ahead and comment and then take over, Captain Mike. Thank you so much for your time. We'll take it, Angie. We'll take it from here. We'll see you next week.
All right.
I'm definitely excited about having Cameron on, Mr. Barnes, and just to backpedal a little bit, Captain Mike, definitely, I don't know how you felt about it, Mr. Barnes, but he definitely gave us some tips about how you can increase your blood flow and your circulation. And so did you have any comments on that before we dive into your wonderful background?
No, I'm going to yield to you all. You're the host.
Well, I know one thing. It was very useful. Thank you, Captain Mike. These are certainly tips that we could all use to increase our blood flow and to have better health. But as we were saying, Mr. Barnes, again, it is indeed a pleasure to be able to talk with you. But before we get into the meat of it, I did want you to share how you got to this point, what made you want to run for alderman, and how all of this kind of unfolded right before your eyesight.
Absolutely. So, as mentioned in the bio, I'm actually 24 years old. I know you mentioned 26. I'm actually 24 years old. I got involved with the Rainbow Push Coalition back in 2015, and I became a mentee under Reverend Jackson. And in 2020, after graduating from Central State University with a bachelor's degree in business administration and concentration in marketing, Reverend Jackson made me the national youth director for the organization, and I was blessed to be able to travel the country, the length and breadth of this country, with the world's most iconic civil rights leader of this modern age. And as his right-hand man, and I was grateful to be able to do that. And he opened my eyes to a lot more civic engagement, to everything that was going on, from voting rights to civil rights to all of the different things that make our lives, go around, if you will. And so after figuring all of that out, I told Reverend at one point, we go all across the country. We go from Los Angeles to New York to Texas to everywhere in between. But every time I come back home, and I'm born and raised in the 9th Ward, so every time I come back home, I feel hypocritical that I'm helping you and helping other folks fight battles all across this country, but I can't even help the people that are living literally right next door to me, who would say, Cameron, we see you on TV, we see you, you was in Washington, you were doing this, you were doing that. And I felt like, to an extent, they weren't upset, but I was like, but if they can see me helping someone else at some point, it doesn't become an insult that you can't help the folks that are right next door to you. So seeing the dilapidation of the ward, every time I came home, I told Reverend, I need to forsake my role as the National Youth Director. I resigned from that position. I'm no longer the National Youth Director of Rainbow Push and no longer an employee of Rainbow Push. Reverend Jackson gave me his blessing to leave and be able to go run this race, because I told him this is the logical next step in the service that I've been called to do. I'm also an associate minister, so service is already my calling anyway. And so I said, Reverend, this is the logical next step. I have to show up for my constituents, for my peers.
Wow. So you've given us great context as to how all of this actually unpacked. And so we do want to salute you for actually taking a big step and resigning from such a momentous and obviously honorable position in regards to just being able to be right alongside of Reverend Jesse Jackson. And so we do congratulate you for taking such a huge step. For our listening audience who may not in fact know what a ward is, may not in fact know how, the hierarchy goes in politics and things like that, what would you define a ward as within the city of Chicago?
For sure. A ward is simply a piece of the city. It's not exactly one neighborhood. It's not exactly one area. It's a piece of the city. Chicago is the 3rd largest metropolitan city in America. And so we're broken up into 50 different wards. And so, like I said, one ward may be able to house several different communities. So say, for instance, in the 9th Ward, you have Roseland, you have Pullman in the 9th Ward, you have a piece of Fernwood, you got a piece of Chatham. Not all of Chatham, but there's a piece of Chatham. So there's no defined exact space that you can say that whole neighborhood is in there. Like maybe all of Pullman is in the 9th Ward, but basically each ward is a piece of the city, and that ward is then represented by one person on the city council. And so the alderman is the voice of that constituency for that piece of the city. They take their concerns, or at least they're supposed to, I should say. They're supposed to take their concerns, because we see that that's not being done. They take their concerns to the Chicago City Council, and they report to the mayor. Your alderman controls 1/50th of the $11.8 billion Chicago budget. So how much of that comes to your neighborhood is gatekept by your alderman. So when you talk about the resources, when you talk about what's going on, many people get mad at the mayor, get mad at the president, get mad at the governor. Your alderman is the one who makes the decisions of what funding comes in and out of your ward. That is the person who controls that piece of the city on the Chicago City Council.
Beautifully stated. And so having identified and stated all of that, for those who may not in fact know what a ward is, Mr. Cameron Brown, running for the 9th Ward, has elaborately told us what a ward is and how it affects us here in the city of Chicago. Again, you're listening to the Progressive Mind Show. I am Angie Mims. Mr. Barnes, what have you identified as problems in the 9th Ward?
Well, Miss Angie,
challenges, would I say?
The question is, do we have that much time? There's a plethora, in all seriousness, there's a plethora of issues in the 9th Ward particularly. I have crafted my campaign around 3 particular issues, and that is revitalization without gentrification. We need to bring more businesses, more investment into the 9th Ward. And so what happens is that usually when it does come to the 9th Ward, it comes with a price. And that price is paid by tax-paying Black citizens who then are pushed out of their homes, of their businesses, or whatever it is, pushed out of the ward and then gentrified in that same neighborhood. So usually revitalization comes with gentrification in the 9th ward, as we've seen under the current leadership for the last 24 years. So we want to revitalize because Roseland, and anyone that knows Michigan Avenue and Roseland knows that it's nothing the way it used to be, nothing like we remember it to be, not as robust, not as bustling. All of those things happen. We have to revitalize that, but without gentrifying and taking our community out of our community. And you know what I mean, of course. The second piece to that is revitalization without gentrification. Then the other piece is education innovation. So Angie, there's a lot that is going on in our education system. And most candidates you'll hear say that CPS is failing our children, that the school system is bad and everything. And there is no kind of plan put behind that. Education innovation is in 2023, why are we not teaching science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, or STEAM? Some people know it as STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, but we add arts into that, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, STEAM, of course, then coding and robotics. If you're talking about Elon Musk that buys Twitter and everyone's all in the uproar and everything, if we had innovative education such as coding in our classrooms, then a Black child would be able to know how to code, make their own app, and we can make a new Twitter that Black Twitter ran Twitter anyhow. Everybody came to Twitter for Black Twitter. So what you do is you teach Black kids how to code, and they create the new platform. We're talking about education, innovation, and of course, the alternative. My brother did not go to a traditional 4-year institution. He went for 1 year. It wasn't for him. He got him a trade. He's doing great working at the railroad right now. My grandfather has a 7th grade education and has built a 3-generational construction company off of knowing how to be a bricklayer and being a skillful worker. So trades have to be invested in. Our young people don't know that you can make $60 to $150 an hour as a plumber. Yeah. All you need to know how to do is plunge a toilet. Yes. I'm being facetious, of course, though. But education, innovation, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, coding, robotics, and trades, college alternatives, revitalization without gentrification. And then the last piece is reprioritizing resource allocation. As we know what's going on, of course, in Chicago. Chicago is a sanctuary city. And at this time already, Chicago has taken in just about 4,000 migrants from Texas alone. And that's come at a price of investment of $120 million from the state, a multi-million-dollar investment from the city of Chicago, and the mayor has already requested another $53.5 million to take care of the remaining 1,531 migrants that live in Chicago. Now, I'm not saying that we ought not take care of folks. I'm a man of faith, so I want everybody to eat. But it's crazy to think that your kids are going to eat before my kids eat. We have to not be able to put the city of Chicago on the back burner. If we got almost $200 million to invest, there's 65,000 unhoused Chicagoans right now in the city. They used to be tax-paying citizens who fell on different things and all that. No one plans to be homeless. And so if we're talking about sanctuary cities and asylum seekers, there are citizens who are asylum seekers right now. And I'm not trying to victimize, of course, the migrants, but you don't want it to turn into a duo between the haves and the have-nots. But in Chicago, it's the have-nots and the have-nots.
Let's take a pause really quickly. I wanted to, and you're giving us very much so useful information, but when you say that, I want to backpedal to the educational piece. Yes. Having come out of education myself, why do you think, honestly speaking, from your heart and from your knowledge or your logos, why do you think we are not afforded these opportunities, and why is the money not coming into these various wards? You may mention that your alderman is the one, before we get to the mayor and the governor and the president, but your alderman is ultimately the one that can vouch for what happens in or within that ward, right? So why do you think, when you list Roseland and I'm sure Inglewood and wherever else, why do you think that is?
Honestly, and it goes back to that point where I said the alderman is supposed to be at the city council seat with the best interests of the constituency. And oftentimes, more times than not, we see is elected officials who go to these seats with their personal
Barnes,
interests. Yes.
looks like we have a caller on the line. We're trying to see if we can get this caller to. I think there's a question for you.
Cool.
Caller, can you go ahead and tell us your name and why you're calling?
Hi, I'm from the 9th Ward, and I was calling because we never seen Mr. Barnes or anything that he's done. So we were wondering, what are you going to do and what are you going to bring? Because nobody really has seen any work from you. Like, what organization have you done? What community activism have you done? Like, what are you doing compared to the other people that's running?
Well, great question. Before he answers that, we would encourage folks that are viewing, if you were in support of Mr. Barnes, share the feed. Even if you're not in support, please share it on Facebook and on YouTube. This is how we can get the community to listen to his message, question him, and also get to know more about his character like this caller is doing. Mr. Barnes, please go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you for that question. I have been blessed to be, of course, I was the National Youth Director of the Rainbow Push Coalition. So much of my work has been on a national scale. And if you would look, that I've been all across the country doing civil rights work, voting rights work, and civic engagement. Just even as recently as this past December, working in the state of Georgia for their election as well. But not only that, if you look at what's going on in the Concordia Place apartments, we've been dealing with that piece since 2021, February of 2021. Concordia Place Apartments is located 13037 South Daniel Drive in the 9th Ward. And you recall all of the different things that was going on in that. It was infested with all kinds of different vermin and things. Mold was all in that apartment complex and everything, and still is in some cases. And so what we've been doing has been working with HUD. I've hosted the Department of Housing and Urban Development Secretary, Marsha Fudge, in the 9th Ward as a community activist. I've hosted Mayor Lightfoot, Congresswoman Kelly. I've hosted everyone on the elected official side except the governor and the alderman himself, although those invitations have been sent out. We've been trying to do as much work as we can, of course. Like I said, having been a national seat holder, I've been all across the country doing this work. And if you didn't get a chance to hear the beginning of this spiel, if you will, ma'am, I think that caller is being able to still hear, of course. What happened was, traveling all across the country, I kept coming back home and kept seeing that the ward was being more and more dilapidated. I came home from Central State University one time and Rosebud Farm was closed. And anybody from the 9th Ward knows exactly what Rosebud Farm is. And I thought that had to be a joke, because certainly Rosebud couldn't be closed. Every time I would come home, the ward would become more and more dilapidated. And so the work that I've done has been all across this country. You can look to see what I've done with Jelani Day, with the Ahmaud Arbery family, a lot of the different mothers of the movement, families of the movement, martyrs of the movement from all across this country. I've been able to lend my hand in my service in doing so, and in voting rights and in civic engagement with some of the top civil rights organizations in the nation. We've done work with NAACP, with the National Action Network. Go ahead.
Mr. Barnes, not to interrupt, but we have another caller online, so we don't keep them holding on for a long time. I would like to give that caller the chance to, now before that, the first caller, ma'am, I hope that Mr. Barnes was able to answer some of your questions, at least, if not all.
Yes, I hope so too.
Okay, so I think we lost her. But caller, can you tell us why you on the line, why you ringing in, and if you have and go ahead with your questions, please.
Hello, my name is Susie. Hi. I would love to ask the question in particular to Mr. Barnes. With the Rainbow Push Coalition, because I constantly hear him say he's traveled all across the world, how has he tried to actively, and even now, because I guess he's no longer the National Youth Director, how is he trying to bring more young people to Rainbow Push? And what has been his effort? Because I just really hear him saying about Reverend Jesse Jackson. And I'm wondering, did Reverend Jesse Jackson endorse him and in support of his mission?
Okay, great. Now, thank you so much. What's your name again, caller?
My name is Jen.
Jane. Thank you, Jane. Now, I know the previous caller is still online. Can you please tell us your name again? Hello? Okay, since looks like I saw her online, but Miss Jane, thank you so much for your question. Mr. Barnes, you can please go ahead and respond to it, the question, and then we can have NG come in.
Certainly. So thank you again for, of course, that question. During my time as the National Youth Director at Rainbow Push, we held several different kinds of efforts to bring more young people into Rainbow Push. The fact of the matter is that with young people and in the movement today, you've got to have something that keeps them in the door. You can't just bring them in the door, which is not to say that Rainbow Push does not have anything to keep them in the door. But you've got to be able to appeal to young people's pertinent responses, their pertinent requests, at the same time as giving them this kind of information. So, of course, right now, I'm doing nothing to bring more young people to Rainbow Push because I'm no longer an employee of Rainbow Push. Have not been for some time. At this point now, we're doing much more to bring more information to young people so that you can become a political process player. Too many young people don't even know the political process. I've talked to several different young people in the ward who don't even know who or what the alderman is or what they do. Don't even know what a municipal election is. Doesn't even know when the municipal election is and what kind of power that they have. So all of my work now is focused on the 9th Ward, bringing the resources to the 9th Ward, and waking up 30,000 other voters that are not voting in the 9th Ward. That's what we're trying to do as we continue to run this race. Now, as far as Reverend Jesse Jackson is going to release his list of endorsements very soon, as he does every year for every election. And I certainly hope to be on that list. We'll see when that list becomes public.
Thank you so very much for answering that question, Jen. I hope that he did, in fact, answer your question. I definitely am appreciating you actually taking the time to, give a better snapshot to the listening audience as to what you've been doing on a national level. And he did state earlier that though he was able to travel and do different things with Reverend Jesse Jackson, he did actually take a look, step back and say, you know what, I am here in the 9th Ward and I want to start at home. And so we thank you so very much. I want to call you Minister Barnes because I see your people on here and they say good Reverend.
Cam is just as good.
Let me interact for a second. Looks like we have another caller online. Is this Miss Watson?
Hi, I'm a resident of the 9th Ward, and I was wondering, Cameron, we know that you grew up in the 9th Ward before redistricting, but now are you still a resident of the 9th Ward now that we have a new ward map?
You know what's funny?
Mr. Barnes, before you respond to that question, there are others watching us who may not be familiar with the landscape of the wards. So 4th, 9th. So
from what the information you provided, the residents that you are registered at is not in the current 9th Ward. So what do you have to say for that?
Yes, so he's going to respond to it, but I just wanted to give us a landscape of the 9th Ward so people have a picture of what we're talking about.
Yeah. First of all, Ms. Watson, again, thank you. And of course, the 9th Ward of not just the 9th Ward, the entire city of Chicago has been redrawn in May of 2022. Would you believe that my residents, of course, when you talk about different things about redlining and different things when people know what's going on, they try to put you out. Would you believe that once the map was redrawn, the 9th Ward stops at the end of my block, and that now the address that I'm registered at is currently technically in the 10th Ward. But thanks to the Chicago city politics rules, you know that, of course, if you were in the 9th Ward prior to the map being redrawn, you can still run as the alderman. But soon after I win, I have to move right back into the 9th Ward, which for me is, funnily enough, right down the street. So you always got some people that's going to play some games and do anything. People probably knew I was going to run and didn't want me to run and said, push him out of the ward. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm going to win the race and then move down the street. And then I will be in the 9th Ward again as still a lifelong resident of the 9th Ward. Until this map is redrawn, again, and they put Golden Gate and Altgeld Gardens back in the 9th Ward because it shouldn't have been taken out in the first place. But we'll get to that in a different sense when you talk about gentrification and why they want the Altgeld Gardens and all these other pieces to move out of a historically Black neighborhood to go into a historically Latino neighborhood. And we're side by side all of a sudden. And now, all of a sudden, you're going to cut 5 communities that's right next to each other. 130th Street, when you get off of the Bishop Ford, you got Altgeld Gardens, Golden Gates, Concordia Place Apartments, Riverside Village, and Pangea, all a part of the 9th Ward. Who strategically took several thousand of those out of the 9th Ward and pushed them into the 10th Ward without a hidden agenda? We'll find that out once I get on the council, but that's another time, another conversation.
Well, we want to be able to read some of these comments really quickly. Rhonda Round says exactly. Then we have
Rhonda Round is from Concordia Place Apartments. Shout out to Rhonda Round. Ask her what we've done, of course, in the 9th Ward. If you want to know what Cameron has done on the ground, Rhonda Round is a good person to ask.
Well, we're interested in seeing what Rhonda Round may, in fact, type to your petition in regards to what you've actually done. I also want to read this particular comment from Townsend. She says, he or she says, I watched this young man grow up. He has grew up in the ward and he knows the difference he wants. He wants a change. I wish more young men like him would stand up for the community and the world to want to make a change. Go, Cameron. I support you. That's wonderful news to read. We also have some additional.
She was one of that was a young lady. I don't want to cut you off, Miss Angie. Okay. I know Miss Townsend is one of the young ladies who worked with at CICS Larry Hawkins when I was a high school student, middle school student, high school student. Another piece of why I said I would run for alderman back in 2016 when they closed that high school and never opened it again. And 7 years later, it's still sitting there. Taxpayers are still lighting it, heating it. The sign is still up, and you don't have a high school for 5 communities right back to each other. All you have is a selective enrollment school who's predominantly Latino, which is why I just said, why did they then push the neighborhood? The school was already predominantly Latino. Now the neighborhood gets pushed into the predominantly Latino ward. You know, let's not play politics over people. We all know what's going on, and I'm not surprised.
Well, thank you for commenting on that. Zakia Moulton says, I'm not okay with this. We need to take care of home first. And so I'm not sure if Zakia heard you, but earlier when you gave, commentary about taking a step back, looking at everything and working, at home. My thing is this. How are you going to address, because I did hear you when the question was asked, basically, do you live in the 9th Ward? And I'm sure you're fully equipped and geared up for it, but how are you going to address the naysayers? Because they're going to come, and they're going to criticize, where you currently live versus what you intend on doing. How is that going to actually affect, or how do you think that's going to affect your campaign?
Naysayers don't affect my campaign. If they want to be naysayers, then clearly they're against my campaign. I'm not going to waste time trying to convince somebody who comes in knowing that they're not going to support you in the first place. You're going to end up playing a tit for tat game and all that while the residents continue to get nothing at the same time, while schools continue to close, while grocery stores continue to close, while neighborhoods continue to become gentrified. Violence is going rampant. I mean, I ain't got nothing to say really to a naysayer. The fact is, if you're not progressive, the Progressive Mind Show. But if you're not a progressive mind, if you're not progressive, then I don't really have much to say to you. This is not even about me personally. You want to talk about where I live or what I'm doing and this, that, and the third. This is about the 50,000 constituents that don't get anything. The 9th Ward is called the forgotten pocket of the city. We're talking about what we're going to do to bring revitalization without gentrification, education, innovation, and reprioritize resource allocation. Now, if you're not talking about any one of those 3 and you're a naysayer, I appreciate you for knowing my name, but I don't need to know yours.
Oh, okay. All right. Zakia did comment. Thank you so much again for Zakia rectifying the previous question. She says, I was referencing the money from the city and state to people coming from Texas and not Chicagoans.
Almost
Very
$200
good.
million.
Very good clarification.
Almost $200 million. It was published December the 29th in the Chicago Tribune. $120 million from the state already, which the mayor has requested another $53.5 million, which is only to get us to June 30th. That ain't to get us to the end of the year. That's not to get us to another year. That's $53.5 million on top of $120 million, only to get us to June 30th, with an also undisclosed amount from the city, which is only named as a multi-million-dollar investment. So you're talking about upward of $200 million on less than 5,000 people, and there's 65,000 unhoused Chicagoans in the city. And you talk about being a sanctuary city. Now, how can we be a sanctuary city for somebody else and we can't be a sanctuary city for our own residents? You can look and go and find out when I did work down at Tent City on the side of Roosevelt, how extensive we've been working with them and trying to get them in adequate housing. The Department of Family and Support Services, whose job it is in the city of Chicago to house, to shelter, to take care of the needs and the services of those who need the support. What could they have done with almost $200 million to get those people off of the streets in tents, different things? Thank God for people like the Inglewood Barbie and Alita Clark, who's trying to do as much as they can to get people off of the streets in the bitter cold, of course, where they're buying hotel rooms and doing things. $120 million would have bought a lot of hotel rooms for a lot of Chicagoans who did not have housing. And we've given it to migrants, which again, I'm not going to victimize or demonize, but what is going to happen is we're going to end up having a fight between those who don't have and those who don't have. So it's not the haves and the have-nots, it's the have-nots and the have-nots. And then you fighting over crumbs. This doesn't make any kind of sense.
Great. On that very great point, we would like to take a few comments that we missed earlier. Maybe Angie would help us with the comments, please.
Sure. Karen says, good evening, everyone. She's a faithful caller and listener. And so we do thank you for actively participating in this show. Who else do we have, Senna? Sherry Johnson says, great show. Minister Cameron Barnes will be a great alderman. Thank you so much for your comment. Zakia says, exactly. She also, we addressed that. She says we take home. Take care of home.
That's why the last point is reprioritizing resource allocation. It doesn't mean that the migrants or those who are seeking asylum are not going to thing, and I'm not being inhumane with saying throw them back or go back to where you came from. This is the land of opportunity. You ought to be able to get an opportunity, but you shouldn't get it before those who pay the taxes that make this land opportunity full, if you will.
Awesome. I don't know if you already addressed this comment, but
I did. We did.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then, well,
Daniel is representing Ghana, Africa.
Awesome.
Ghana.
Great. Now, talking about Ghana and Africa, and I want to alert our audience that there is, I'll be going in and out because I have to do the production for NG to host the show. So if you see me go in and out, that's the reason. Mr. Barnes, I don't know, Angie, I don't know if you already posted in the African diaspora, but if not, Angie, have you?
We were getting to that.
Okay, please go ahead. So you have been watching the Progressive Mind Show. We are here now every Tuesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. Central, and on Sundays from 4 to 6.
Yes.
We bring on pertinent issues. We are about building our communities through dialogue. And so we have these conversations that are very pertinent to our communities. We also provide our platform to the voiceless who may have a thing to say but may not have access to be on mainstream media. We are also very big on culture and bringing the African world together. We are 501c3. You can always visit our website, theprogressivemindshow.com or TPMS. Theprogressivemindshow.com is the website. Again, we are 501c3. Feel free to contribute, support us as we continue to build our communities. Again, I said it earlier when we were introducing the show, that we give an equal platform, or we reach out to all candidates who are running for office to come and share their information and interact with the community. And so these are the ones that have responded. After Mr. Barnes, Representative Lamont Robinson will be here to tell us why he is running for the Alderman office for Ward 4. So stay tuned. We'll go back to Mr. Barnes and Angie to continue this wonderful dialogue. One thing you can do to help the candidate is to share the information on Facebook or YouTube so that the community can get to know what they are all about. Thank you so much. Keep supporting the Progressive Mind Show. My name is Senna, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Angie. Angie, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, visionary Senna. So, Mr. Barnes, one of the questions that I was getting around to was, I wanted to know from your standpoint, from your heart, how do you think the African diaspora can contribute to the success of the campaign, of your campaign, and how do we bridge the gap? How does the African diaspora, affect all of this from your standpoint?
Well, from my heart, of course, each and every one of us descend from an African. And all of us have a part to play in returning ourselves back home. And what does that look like? That ain't just talking about going back home to the motherland, if you will. Even in our own home, where we live, the 9th Ward, wherever you may be in Chicago, wherever you may be across the world, really, you know that you have the root and you have the grit, if you will, of your African ancestry. And so each and every one of us, anytime we do something good, we're expanding the African diaspora. Anytime we talk truth to power, we're expanding the African diaspora. The African diaspora is not only on the continent of Africa. Somebody thought it was a country. It's a continent. But it's everything that we do is an extension of the African diaspora. And so I have a good friend of mine who just came back from 2 weeks in Ghana, and he is even having a hard time readjusting to coming back home to America, because what you don't understand is, even when you do make it back, even when you do make it back to the motherland, there's a connection there that's going to go with you all across the world. It's going to go with you everywhere you are, because it's a connection not with land, but it's a connection with your own heart and your own ancestry. So the fact of the matter is that the African diaspora can help us by, of course, always pushing this message, not only in the 9th Ward, not only in Chicago, not only in America, anywhere we trod our feet on, we have an obligation to bring that diaspora with us, to bring that history with us, and continue, of course, to perform not only for ourselves and for us. Now, the diaspora that's coming as well. Now, when I get kids, they're going to be part of the African diaspora as well. And so what we're doing here is not something that's just for today. It ain't something for tomorrow. It's not something even for next year. This run is going to be about what's going to happen decades after Cameron on this earth is no more. Naysayers or supporters can't come do nothing. You can come knock on my grave. I'm not getting up. I can promise you that. Either way it goes, whatever we do, all of this has ramifications far beyond today. The African diaspora can do its part, of course, the same way it's been doing. I don't want to say that there's something wrong you've been doing or something right you've been doing. You know in your own heart what's right and what's wrong. We've got to do what's right, not only for ourselves, but for those who died for us to have this right. You got to understand, I'm a Black man in Chicago running for Chicago City Council. There was a time where you could get hanged, you can get hung even for talking about you was going to vote. And you talking about you want to talk about the African diaspora and go into the nitty gritty of the cultural aspect of this. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams. We already are doing a lot more than people ever thought that we could do, they could do, or could be done at all, let alone in your own lineage. So, I mean, we can go on and on about that, Angie, but
do you think that this conversation with you talking about you running for alderman, with you having a history with Rainbow Push and being the National Youth Director, do you think that this particular conversation is essential to us as Black and brown people understanding where we've come from and how far? Because I heard you mention, we're now our ancestors' wildest dreams, which is such a bold and radical statement, which I do like, by the way. But do you think that this conversation can actually help us better understand why we need to vote, why we need to know our aldermen, why we need to know who's sitting on what seat? Do you think that this will actually help?
Absolutely. The fact of the matter is that too many conversations like this are not even happening. How many times have you gone out and voted for that same elected official, and how many times did you get to ask him a question? How many times did you get to sit down and pick his brain? How many times did you really hear what his plan were or her plan was, or whatever it is? How many times do we get a chance to have our elected officials come to us and tell us what it is, what's the end all be all? These kinds of conversations have to happen not only on this local level. I want to see it happen on the state level, on the federal level, all the way to the national level and the international level. These are the kind of conversations.
I'm sorry. So let me ask this. When you say that, when these conversations take place and that people should be able to actually, have this dialogue with their elected officials, would this take place in town halls? Would it take place? Would your door be an open door policy where anybody could walk in and ask these types of questions?
I want to, of course, have a quarterly consultation with the constituents. One thing that people don't know, my grandparents have lived at that address that folks' question is in the 9th Ward or not. 13288 South Riverdale, been there for forever, over 50 years, never met the man, never met the alderman, never seen him, never asked him a question. When I told them I was running for alderman, they said, well, who is the alderman? I said, Grandma, you've been living here for 50 years. You don't know the alderman? And she said, he ain't never came down my block. He never rang my doorbell. He never said anything to me. And so our aldermen and our elected officials are not even accessible. I want us to be able to have quarterly consultations, at least maybe 6 bi-monthly or so, where we have a plethora, or rather a platform where I'm there. I have time allotted, 4 or 5 hours even, because there's a lot to cover and there's a lot of questions. Well, we can have conversations. You need to come, ask me a question, ask me, what are you doing, Cameron? I don't like the way you did this, or you voted on this, or you did that. Why did you do this? This is what we want you to take to the city council, because you're not up there just representing yourself, you're representing us. And so we never have these kind of conversations. And these kind of conversations mean, because I keep saying these kinds of conversations, so somebody's going to say, well, what is these kinds of conversations? These kinds of conversations are the ones where you get to decide the angle of which we're going. I'm not going to duck and dodge any kind of question. I'm going to give you whatever answer I got. And if I don't have an answer, I'll tell you that I don't know, and I'll come back to you with an answer with the best of my ability. But the transparency isn't there. No one is having a conversation.
Exactly. Right.
Nobody is holding people accountable. If Alderman Bill has been the worst alderman in 24 years, how's nobody holding the man accountable? How's nobody saying you need to come to this community meeting? You need to come to do this. He's not going to plan it himself. Have we invited him and asked him to take responsibility for what he's done, or has not done, I should say? So, I mean, the conversations that I'm talking about is just what's in the best interest of the constituents. What do they want to know? When I go to the city council, it's not what Cameron's agenda is. I got to vote like this because this is what my constituents told me. I'm here because they elected me and they want me to represent them on the city council. They're not in the meeting. They're at home. That's why they sent me here, to tell you what they said. So these are the conversations that we got to have.
I think that it's good that you've already planned out that these will be quarterly conversations, if I heard you correctly.
Absolutely.
Where people will be able to actually talk and dialogue with you, ask their questions, voice their concerns. And so that's really good. Mary Carter says, if I was in the 9th Ward, you would definitely have my vote, Cameron. Thank you so much, Mary Carter. Nyla Ali says, I believe that is necessary, especially when you are pouring into children and showing them political conversations. And so one of my last questions that I want to ask you is because I am a woman of faith as well. And I did hear you say that, you're a man of God and you're a minister, and somebody definitely calls you Minister Cameron. What scripture and or scriptures would you use that could tie into all of this? Your experience, your knowledge, what scriptures would come to mind that would help you, say, I know this is what I was meant and called to do?
Now, my mind is going to mile a minute to all the sermons I've preached in the last like 3 weeks. I just preached a sermon on David and Goliath 2 days ago, entitled "Just One Rock," and the fact that David picked up 5 smooth stones to go head on and fight Goliath the giant, but he only needed just one rock because he had a rock, but he was standing on the rock, and that's what people didn't realize, and that they thought that he won because of the rock that he threw and not the rock that he was standing on. But my favorite scripture, of course, is Psalm 34. In the 34th number of Psalm, it says that the eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears are open unto their cry. The face of the Lord is against them that do evil, to cut off their remembrance from the earth. And when the righteous cry, the Lord hears and delivereth them out of all of their troubles. I believe, as I mentioned earlier, Angie, this is the logical next step to the service I was already called to do and that I've been doing already. And the Lord told me, now that I've taken you national, because it's backwards. Some people go local, then national. No, I've taken you national. Now come back home, do what you do. When the righteous cry, and your people, your peers, your neighbors, your constituents, those are righteous people. And when they cry, I've heard and delivered them. I want to deliver them out of their troubles. And so just as Moses, I see you as a preacher now, you're going to have me going all over again. Moses was the deliverer of the children of Israel. He told Moses, go and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And so the Lord said, go and tell Alderman Bill to let my people go. It's charismatic, but honestly, every day starts and ends with prayer. People don't even know, and to all even those naysayers, look, I juggled even running. I didn't want to run. I said, I have a national position. I'm doing this. I'm doing work in my church as an associate minister. I'm doing work as a board member of another nonprofit out in Homewood, Flossmoor. I already had a full plate, national and all across. But the Lord said that this is what I need you to do. Forsake all that other stuff. As I sent Moses to deliver the people of the children of Israel, I have to send you to deliver the people of the 9th Ward. And so I said, well, Lord, I'm 24. Maybe I shouldn't. I juggled it. Said maybe I was going to run. Maybe I'm not. I'll hop in, I'll hop out. Many people had so many conversations with me and said, if not you, who? Who's going to do it? Who's going to be able to do it? Who's qualified like you are? Who's seen all kinds of these kinds of things? Not only have you seen the Chicago City Council, you see how the New York City Council is run. You see how DC is run. You see how Atlanta is run. You see how LA is run. You see how Tulsa, Oklahoma was run. You see how Houston, Texas was run. You see how Memphis, Tennessee was run. All of these different kinds of places. You've stood in the same place on the Lorraine Motel where Dr. King took his last breath. You think that was by coincidence? The Lord didn't send me to these different places to prepare me for nothing. He said, what I need you to do is, now that you've done all of that, is go and deliver those people. So when the righteous cry, the Lord will hear and deliver you out of all your trouble.
I love that. When you mentioned Moses, I immediately went to Joshua. And so with you being 24 years of age and Joshua having had to finish off what Moses had successfully done, I do see that, looking and speaking to you, I do see that Joshua anointing where you are willing to take the mantle even further. My other question would be, how are you going to effectively fuse the two? As you probably already know, there are stereotypes. Older people may say, this young boy don't know what he's doing. Younger people may say, I like him, but he's a God-fearing man, and I'm not really into organized religion. I don't believe in God. How are you going to successfully or effectively fuse this balance that is lurking in the backs of many people's minds?
Well, I think everybody has one common goal, and that is progression. They want to see what you're going to produce. Are you going to take us to another level? I'm not forsaking my faith for anything, but there are times where the preacher Cameron is not the Cameron that is presented. I have to be the representative. I have to be the never forsaken, of course, my value. But as far as the older folks, I particularly have a way for some reason with older folks anyhow, because I've been raised and reared around many older folks. My parents, God bless them, of course, but I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, a lot of time, obviously all of my mentors is like 60 and up and everything. So I've been able to reason and meet older folks even where they are with respect. They think young people are too young because they're disrespectful. They don't listen because when they tell them something, they want to do it their own way and everything. I like to be able to say, well, Miss Mims, I understand the fact of how it's been traditionally done. Can we try it my way? Can we try it this way? And then we can certainly circle back around if it doesn't work and try it that way. I want to be able to bring to you something that you may not have known. We're in 2023, and I understand that your mindset is based on your experiences. I want you to become an innovative learner. Just as much as I can learn from you, you can learn from me. Let us both be in a mutually respected position. Those who don't believe in organized religion, listen, to be perfectly honest, I don't care about organized religion anyway. I'm talking about spirituality and if I'm saved or not. But I'm not pushing that on anybody. I don't push my religious beliefs on anybody. The Bible already gives us to know that the Lord doesn't even mess with free will. If the Lord doesn't mess with free will, who am I to do so? So, I just want us to all be on a progressive mindset. And the fact is, you may not like religion, but I know you need a job. You may not like religion, but I know your taxes done tripled. You may not like religion, but I know that you need access to resources. I know you may not like the way that I'm doing this or my age, but you understand the fact that our polling places and our the post office is not even handicap accessible. And so I'm not handicapped. I'm not doing it for myself, but I know I got constituents that's handicapped. That may be someone that I'm talking to who says, well, I don't believe in all that and you too young and everything. And I get that, sir or ma'am, and everything. But even still, you need to have adequate access to get your mail. And the post office on State Street is not wheelchair accessible and not handicap accessible. And so you want progress, let's do progress. I don't like to waste time on trying to nitpick on different things. If it's not on the point, if it's not on the topic, then we don't have time to talk about that kind of stuff. Let's talk about moving the Ninth Ward forward. Let's talk about bringing innovation to the Chicago City Council. Angie, nobody's ever seen a Chicago City Council that's going to be as newly made up as we're going to see. We got an opportunity to change the trajectory of the third largest city in America. I'm not letting not a naysayer, not somebody who a hater, not somebody who may not like me for whatever reason. I try to be cordial with every single body. I don't have no hate in my heart for nobody. So, and if anybody that don't like me, that's their problem, not mine. And so all of that just simply says, look, if you're ready for progress, get on board. Now, if you don't like organized religion, I ain't got no problem putting my headphones in and listening to my Shirley Caesar by myself. But if you want to hear Shirley, then I can turn Shirley on and we can all listen to Shirley. You don't want it. As long as we're going to progress.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angie, for a great show so far. We have a few comments that we would like to get out. At 7 p.m. Our next guest will be coming in soon. Before that, I am sure Mr. Barnes would have a few more things would like to wrap up. Looks like we have Lamont in the studio. So before we introduce Lamont, I'm sure him and Cameron, Mr. Barnes are friends. They would like to say hi to each other. But Angel, we have a few comments. Let's get them out while we introduce Mr. Lamont, Representative Lamont Robinson, back to into the studio. Let's go ahead with the comments. Go ahead.
Okay. We actually addressed this, but Nyla did say that okay, so
no, if you already did, I'm sure. I'm sorry. How about this? Did we?
I did, and we
did as well. Okay, great. That said, we have Mr. Representative Lamont Robinson in the studio.
Yes.
Again, I don't know if you're, we're on Chicago, so
Mhm.
Rep meets Mr. Barnes. Okay, it looks like we lost his due to technical issues.
Well, I want to say this though. He's been a sheer delight. It's been absolutely wonderful dialoguing with Cameron, and your energy, your knowledge, it has definitely been refreshing. And so we wish you the best in your campaign, and may God continue to bless you and enlarge your territory.
I do appreciate you very much. So thank you all so much for the platform.
And yes, Mr. Cameron.
Okay.
No,
yeah.
go ahead.
Just saying thank you.
I was going to say you may want to use this time to share your closing remarks.
Absolutely. I appreciate you for the platform. I've been following the Progressive Mind show for a long time, of course. I'm grateful to be on the platform to talk about what we're doing. I just want to close with my 3 points. Everybody that understands the Ninth Ward knows we need revitalization without gentrification, education, innovation, and reprioritize resource allocation. You can go to www.cameron49.com. Read a little bit more. You can donate when you'd like to, of course. We're raising money. We're doing everything that we can. We're making history by taking this Ninth Ward seat. I'm very confident in the race. I'm grateful. You want to join this team? It's a winning team. I welcome you with open arms.
Well, Mr. Barnes, thank you so much. We wish you the best in your campaign. Hopefully, we can get you back on the platform to talk about the progress. Awesome.
Whenever. Call me whenever.
looks like we have Mr. Robinson in the studio. Mr. Robinson, Rep Robinson, can you hear us?
I can. Thank you for the opportunity. Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Barnes, you want to say hi to Mr. Robinson?
Rep Robinson, good to see you, of course. Good luck in your race.
Good luck to you as well, and back at you.
Thank you. And like we said, this is a community building platform, and so we bring people together. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Barnes, once again. We will be in touch. While we get to Rep Robinson, we will take a quick break. When we come back, the show will continue. Remember, this is the Progressive Mind Show, where we build our communities through dialogue. Every Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m., we're here to talk about these and many more community issues. As you're watching, share the feed so that your favorite candidates can get their message across to a good number of folks in the community. That's why we're here. We shall be right back.
Aglo, Aglo, Aglo. Aglo Bolingbrook Lighthouse is a network of caring women. We are a dynamic global movement with a single mission to see God's purpose fulfilled on earth as it is in heaven. Our mandate is every nation touched and every heart changed for God. We invite you to our prayer meeting every Saturday and breakfast meeting held every last Saturday of the month from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. via Zoom meeting. For more information, please contact Dickness Rebecca Modi at 630-297-1471 or Reverend George Ofe Ado, our advisor, at 630-414-9505. We look forward to having a refreshing time with you in the Lord. Thank you and stay blessed.
There's a cry in my heart.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Alinko and my co-host is Angie Mims. We will be talking to Representative Lamont Robinson as to why he's running for the office of the Alderman, was running for the office of Alderman for Ward 4. Angie, we are back. Great job for The first session, we had a great conversation. Representative Robinson, looks like we're having a little bit of glitch with our feed, but here we go. Angie, please take it from here.
Hi, and good evening to you, Mr. Lamont Robinson. We are very much so honored to have you here. You are, in fact, running for Alderman in the 4th Ward. Is that correct?
That is correct, Angie.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so you have a peculiar situation, if I'm reading correctly. You are
just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So I want our listening audience to know about you, what you stand for, where you are now, and the direction that you're currently trying to go in.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity. I am actually at the state capitol.
Yeah, sorry about the glitch. Looks like his.
I have been a state rep now for 5 years in the Illinois General Assembly, representing the 5th District. The 5th District is an area from South Shore, 81st and Jeffrey, along the lakefront to the River North community. So I represent South Shore, Washington Park, Woodlawn, Bronzeville, Inglewood, the South Loop, the Loop, and River North. And with Sophia King, the current alderwoman running for mayor, the 4th Ward, it leaves a void open in the community that I have served for 4 years, a community that I started my business, a community that I helped build affordable housing and retail, a community, if I didn't mention, also mentoring young men that are African American and sending them to colleges all across the country out of Kenwood High School. And so I've been working in the 4th Ward for several years. And so with Alderman King running for mayor, I decided to take my experiences as a state rep, as a small business owner, as an educator, as someone that has ran a mentoring program, someone that has done economic development, to the city council. And super excited, although it's very bittersweet because we've been doing some great work in the Illinois General Assembly. Today we passed a bill on assault weapons, and that I was happy today to be in the state capitol to be able to pass that historic legislation. And so again, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk about my candidacy for Alderman in the 4th Ward.
Well, we thank you so very much for even taking the time to even call in while you're at the state capitol. And so we want to acknowledge you actually, giving us some insight as to why you're running, what has actually happened. Well, I want to dive right in. What are some of the challenges that are taking place in the 4th Ward right now?
Well, top of mind, certainly as a resident of the 4th Ward, and also being out door knocking, is crime. Our city is a crossroads, and crime is the #1 issue that we're facing in the city of Chicago and that we're facing in the 4th Ward. And so for me, being able to bring my expertise, my relationships with the state police, my expertise with the sheriff's department and CPD to the table to figure out how do we stem the violence in the 4th Ward. And so I've been doing that work currently, but I look forward to doing that as the next alderman of the 4th Ward. But numero uno is crime. Second would be economic development, bringing more retailers in, bringing more affordable housing into the 4th Ward. Something that I've done as a special service area commissioner. I helped to build Shops and Lofts at 47th Street that has retail, that also has affordable housing. And then also making sure that we have equity around our neighborhood schools. We have Kenwood High School, we have also King High School, and then we have Jones. And so making sure that all of our high schools and all of our neighborhood schools have parity and equity. And so those are the 3 things that are issues that I'm hearing from residents in the 4th Ward.
Okay, so with you identifying these issues that have taken place basically from the voices of those who are residents in Ward 4, how do you explain, your transition into alderman? Because here it is, you're at the state capitol and now you're running for alderman. How I guess for the lack of a better phrase, and I'm forgive my candor, but how can this change in direction be trusted?
This change in direction can be trusted because, Angie, I've already been doing the work. I appropriate monies to the city of Chicago. I amend laws. I also make new laws. And I've already built the relationships in the city council. I work with my partners as someone that represents the city. I only represent the city of Chicago. Many of my colleagues represent the city and the suburbs. And so I'm ready from day one to step into the city council. I understand the job. I know what the issues are and the concerns. I've already been working alongside of the aldermen in the 4th Ward. And so from day one, I'm ready to go. And even before me being state rep, as I mentioned to you, I ran a mentoring program out of Kenwood High School. I have been working around economic development, bringing businesses into the 4th Ward, also been working on affordable housing. And so these areas are not new to me as it relates to crime. I have worked with an organization called Activists. They are an organization that the state appropriate money to be able to make sure that they get out in front of the violence before retaliation. And so I've been working on these issues already as a state rep, and I am looking to shift and take those same experiences, Angie, over council.
I appreciate you taking the time to answer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you are committee, or you've done service with the Appropriations and Human Services Committee. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then he's also been a part of the Healthcare Availability and Access Committee, along with the Prescription Drug Affordability Committee, Public Utilities Committee. So you do have the experience. You have apparently a long list of just active service. And so having identified that, though, and with you coming closer to home, I did hear you, and let me know if I heard you correctly, you do work closely with the current alderman. So the current alderman does give you their blessing?
And they do not. And I want to be.
Okay.
I want to make sure that I am being honest with your audience, and certainly will continue to be honest as I've done so as a state rep, and I will do so as the alderman. Our current alderman is supporting her chief of staff, and I certainly understand that. But I also have the support of the 4th Ward organization. That is the committeeman in that area. That has been involved for 20 plus years. And so although I don't have the alderman's support because she's supporting her chief of staff, I get that. I do have the support of the 4th Ward organization, and I do have support of about 10 unions in the state. Also, many members in the city council, as well as other elected officials. And so although I might be missing one support system, and the current alderman, that does not mean I don't have other support. And I'm very appreciative of the support of others that have been pouring in me and want to make sure that we just don't focus in on the 5th floor. We need to focus in on all 50 council seats that are open across the city of Chicago. As I mentioned to you, the city is at a crossroads. And so we don't need to we need to make sure that we elect a good mayor, but we also need to make sure that we elect good aldermen that are going to do the people's work.
Absolutely. So really quickly, what is the starting and ending point for the 4th Ward?
So the 4th Ward starting point is at 53rd Street in Hyde Park, and the ward goes along the lakefront to Jackson. And so the areas that I would represent the 4th Ward would be Hyde Park, North Kenwood, Hyde Park, Kenwood, North Kenwood, Oakland, Bronzeville, the South Loop, the Loop, and then over to Printers Road. And so it's an area that I represent now in the 5th District. It's one of the most diverse wards and or districts in the entire state. High net worth, middle class, and low income.
Thank you so much for answering that. And so when you mentioned earlier with Chicago being quite known, unfortunately, for the crime that rests within the city and within your particular ward, how are you going to approach the crime alone? Are there mentorship programs? Are there established organizations already in place to kind of streamline some of the ongoing crime that's taking place within the Fourth Ward? Oh, it looks like we've lost him momentarily. I'm sure he'll be back. But you are currently listening to the Progressive Mind Show. I am Angie Niams, the co-host, and we are interviewing right now candidate for Fourth Ward Alderman, Lamont Robinson. Thank you for coming back. Are you there?
I am. I'm here.
Wonderful. Did you get a chance to hear my question?
If you could repeat that, I would appreciate it.
No problem. I was simply saying that Chicago, unfortunately, is known for ongoing crime. And when you took the time to let us know where your ward starts and pretty much where it ends, how are you going to streamline? What's your plan of action to try to get a handle on the crime within your Fourth Ward?
And so that is a great question. And as I mentioned to you that I've already been doing that work, I have pulled together a coalition between IIT, which has housing and or college students in the Fourth Ward, the Sheriff's Department, the State Police, as well as CPD to figure out how do we be able to stem the violence in Chicago, in the Fourth Ward. We have all of these resources, Angie, and so for me, being the alderperson, is bringing all those resources to the table to figure out how, again, do we stem violence. That's from a policing standpoint. Separate is we have a lot of mental health resources in the city of Chicago. And so we just cannot police our way out of this. And so reaching out to the mental health organizations to be able to partner with me, to be able to get the people help that they need, first and foremost. And then also creating new block clubs and neighborhood associations and bringing in our business community and our churches and our faith-based organizations. If we bring all these people together, I know that the Fourth Ward can be a beacon of hope and can be an example for the entire city of Chicago on how to stem violence. We need a champion that will draw circles and not make lines. And that's who I am. I am a coalition builder, and bringing people together is something that I want to do as the next alderman of the Fourth Ward. And that's not only around violence, but to be able to bring businesses in and also to be able to bring affordable housing into the area. And so I'm ecstatic about this opportunity.
And I'm excited for you. I want to ask this question as well. And so oftentimes we have seen, and it is true, where we hear great speeches from those who are running for various offices within the political realm. And so how do you intend on making sure that what's said today here on the Progressive Mind Show, in conjunction with other platforms where you have the opportunity to speak on, how can people trust that you'll do what you say prior to winning after you win?
Angie, that's a great question. I would ask people to take a look at my record as a state rep. Everything that I've done as a state rep, I have achieved that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been honest, and I have also been able to keep up with my constituents with a monthly newsletter. During COVID, we had a weekly newsletter. And I have been able to share legislation and issues and concerns, also events that are going on in the district that I represent. But then also just being able to be on here live and in a recorded platform with your viewers is also testament for me to be able to stick to what I have said. Mm-hmm. And again, the work that I've been talking about is work that I've already been doing as a state rep. And so again, if you just look at my track record as a state rep, as you look at my track record as someone that has done economic development, someone that has ran a mentoring program, a nonprofit, I've been doing the work and I have been able to keep my word of the things that I said that I was going to do. And so again, I just appreciate the opportunity to come on here to be able to have that platform.
Absolutely. What do you foresee as the challenges that are currently taking place? And again, I know it may sound a little redundant, but sometimes we may hear ambiguous statements like we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But more specifically, within your starting point and ending point, what are some of the most prevalent challenges outside of crime? Because you did list crime being number one. So what are some other challenges? Is there homelessness? I think you did allude to socioeconomic issues, but I want to hear from you. What are some direct challenges that are taking place within the ward right now today?
The direct challenges are homelessness. And there are folks that are across the ward that not only in our low income part of the ward, but also in our higher income part of the ward that have set up embankments, so to speak, because they're homeless. And we need to figure out how to be able to get them the help that they need. And then also whether that be housing or whether that be mental health. And so I know that the city is really tight with resources, but we also have to rely on our corporate citizens as well. We cannot, Angie, allow our corporate citizens to not be able to weigh in and invest in the city of Chicago. And as a representative of the Loop, which I represent now as a state rep, and I will represent as the next alderperson in the 4th Ward, I will be leaning on those business folks to be able to make sure that they bring much needed resources to the 4th Ward as well. And so back to your question, there's homelessness issues, there is a substance abuse issue, and there's mental health, but there are also resources that are out there. And so my job and responsibility will be to make sure that I get those resources to the people that are in need. I've done it as a state rep, and I will do it as the next alderperson of the 4th Ward.
Okay.
Wow, that has been brilliant so far, and thank you so much, Representative Lamont Robinson, for taking time during this busy time, this busy schedule, your busy schedule, to be on the show. I know you just came from another meeting and trying to get this one out, so we do appreciate it. And whilst you were, giving your presentation, you mentioned some of the issues in the 4th Ward as crime, and I'd like to know how Hyde Park is compared to other neighboring communities when it comes to crime, because the assumption is, and you hear from people all the time, they would like to move from maybe some bad parts of West Side or South Side and come to Hyde Park. It's considered maybe a middle class or upper class community. Again, it has this euphoria, safety euphoria. Okay, that's a place to be if you're trying to avoid bad areas or crime in Chicago. So how is it compared to other communities when it comes to crime and violence?
Well, look, and I think that is an absolutely great question. I think that folks understand that there's a lot of resources that are in Hyde Park. And that is why someone would want to come and do wrong in Hyde Park, right? Because they understand that this community has resources. And so what we need to do is to be able to make sure that Hyde Park is a safe, walkable community, that there is light, that there is, the University of Chicago plays a part in this, the CPD plays a part in this. And although Hyde Park is safer than in other areas of the city of Chicago, we still need to make sure that we have a police presence. And so I will be working with business owners to make sure that their video surveillance is tied into the city of Chicago, that we, as business.
So we apologize for the break in the transmission. I'm sure he's probably using his phone, so maybe a call came through, and or probably just network issues. But you have been watching and listening to the Progressive Mind show. It's about 7:27 p.m. Central Time, and we will be wrapping up in a little bit the conversation with Representative Lamont Robinson, who is running for the Alderman office for the 4th Ward. While we wait for him to come in, Angie, I think we do have a few comments here. We'll see if we can get them in. I think Nyla
She said, yes, Angie, this is what I want to know. I think that was pertaining to the youth question that we were inquiring about. So thank you so much for posing your question, Naila.
Okay. And
she says the crime happening is a lot of our youth. What is the angle you have to help, with the youth that are committing these crimes? And I think you began to touch on that, but we didn't fully capture it. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so while we wait for his network to get back in line, we would just basically have a brief. I think these two candidates have been very energetic, and I've listened in parts. And it's been very informative. But I think we have while I bring Rep Lamont in, your view so far on this whole with these two candidates, Angie.
I love them both actually because they're articulate. They know how to, explain some of the questions, the regular questions that actually happen. But I see both sides, having done some work with Congressman Danny K. Davis and Director Sharita Logan. They were solely responsible for me even having a, interest in politics. It's just more so on the other side of things, like how can I trust you? Will I be able to come to you and ask these questions and perhaps even get your help? Can I trust that you're going to do what your agenda actually said you were going to do prior to you winning or even running? So these are the types of questions that actually steer young people away from politics because, it's all revolved around trust. Can I trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do? Do you have my best interest, my grandparents' best interests at heart? Do you have a good working relationship with churches and things like that? And so they both so far, have been answering, very, very well. And so I'm very grateful for State Representative Robinson actually calling from the state capitol, taking the time to let the listening audience know what he's about, his experience, and so forth.
Thank you, Angie, for those comments. We're curious, State Rep, what your colleagues are probably saying to you right now. I'm sure, I'm sure they're saying.
Many of them are waving at me in the stairwell because this was the best quiet place in a very busy time. And so we're going from the 102nd General Assembly to the 103rd. And so many of my colleagues, my own seatmate, unfortunately lost her reelection. And so Denise Stoneback, I want to give her a shout out because Denise created the Gun Caucus. And she represents Skokie. And so from Chatham to Bronzeville to Skokie to Inglewood to Highland Park, we all have issues as it relates to guns. And so I want to give her some kudos, but it's a busy time because, again, we're going from the 102nd General Assembly to the 103rd. And it's very bittersweet that there's a few colleagues, not only Denise, but there's some others that won't be back with us. But again, I'm just extremely appreciative of the 5 years that I've been here and the great things that we have been able to do since I've been here as a state rep. And also having an African-American speaker in Chris Welch. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about the Fourth Ward. And I just appreciate the opportunity again.
Thank you so much, Rep Robinson. It's 31 minutes past 7 p.m. Central. You're watching the Progressive Mind show, and this episode is titled 2023 Aldermaic Elections in Chicago. And we would like to create a platform where you can meet the candidates that are running for offices in your local communities. We also have the mayoral candidates in February. All these elections are going to be held in February, specifically 28th of February, 2023. And so we encourage that if you have a specific candidate that you want to get on the show, we are 501c. Feel free to reach us at info.progressiveminds@gmail.com. We have a few questions for Rep Robinson, and my colleague Angie is has been fantastic tonight. She's always been fantastic, and thanks for
Thank you.
great conversation so far. And I think, Rep, you were in the middle of in a point, delivering a point or making your point when we had that technical issue. So you might want to, if you want to continue, that's fine. If you want us to reiterate the question, we can do that. There was also another point that was in the a comment that was in the feed that we wanted you to respond to. So please feel free to continue from where you left off. Okay, looks like we're having the same issue again. Well, we would keep working. We would keep at it and see if we're able to finish the conversation. But great point you were making earlier, Angie. But I also hear people talk about how they are very nonchalant about politics because they all seem to speak in the same pattern. And so I think it begs the question: who then now can you trust? What makes you pick one politician over the other? What is the standout trait, character that wants one to believe? Because, like you said, trust. And a lot of times politicians don't deliver on what they promise. And so I think that would be a good question to ask Rep. Lamont.
Yes.
Looks like we have him back in the studio.
Yes. Thank you for coming back. He is not giving up, so that's a short thing to notice. He does not give up. So the listening audience, just know that one thing we've already observed is that he's determined, and so we thank you so much for continuing to come back in. I don't know if you heard my comments before when Senna, our visionary, asked a very pivotal question, which was, what do I think about the candidates so far? And so were you able to hear some of my comments and commentary about that particular question?
I was, Angie, and I am extremely appreciative of the comments that you've made. You've mentioned someone that has been a mentor to me that is very close to you, and that's Danny K. Davis. And I'll tell you, Danny has been a supporter of mine as a state rep. He is supporting me as a candidate for Alderman of the 4th Ward. He has helped me keep a hospital open, a hospital that has been in the 4th Ward serving our community for 120 years, and that's Mercy Hospital. And so I'll be forever grateful of the Congressman Danny K. Davis. So you mentioned that, and I just wanted to come back to that point because I'm extremely appreciative of his friendship, mentorship, and support.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Go ahead, Senna.
Yes, thank you so much. I don't know if you already mentioned this, but how many? I have two quick questions. How many endorsements, or who have endorsed you so far?
So I just mentioned Congressman Danny K. Davis and Congresswoman Congressman Robin Kelly, also the Speaker of the House, Chris Welch, and the Senate President, Don Harmon, and about 10 unions. So IBEW and CFL, the roofers, the plumbers, also several of my colleagues in the House, several of my colleagues in.
Okay, we lost him again. That he was making a great point, but we lost him unfortunately. So we'll see if we can get him back in. It's 36 minutes past 7 p.m. This is the Progressive Mind Show. We have him back here.
And several of my colleagues in the General Assembly, as well as the Illinois Senate. And so, look, we got some great support, but although we have the great support, I'm not taking anything for chance. And so I am outdoor knocking, making sure that I understand the issues and concerns of the residents of the 4th Ward, because there are the voters. And so those are the people that, again, I need to make sure that I hear from.
All right. My next question is, again, pardon me if you probably already mentioned this, but did you already speak about the Mercy Hospital situation?
I did not.
Okay, let me be clear with the question then. So I have been in the Brownsville Hyde Park area for about 12 years, and as an African immigrant coming here, I started noticing the differences and the availability in social amenities, infrastructure for communities. The reason why I'm saying this is when I first moved to Bronzeville, and I'll say, both going between Bronzeville and Hyde Park, that hospital played a very significant role in some of my friends who were immigrants as well, in terms of getting access to healthcare. And then maybe a few years ago, we were hearing the rumors that it was going to be closed down, and it kept going on. And later on, I heard, oh, they didn't close it down. They ended up not selling it. So I was just wondering about a lot of things. Okay, first of all, they wanted to sell it or they wanted to close it down, and now they're not closing it. So what's happening to this hospital? And then I heard somewhere when you give a speech during your announcement of running for office for Alderman, that you played a part in this. My long question is that how significant is that hospital to this community, and what role did you play in sustaining or maintaining that hospital from now being closed down?
Humbly, I was the first to ring the alarm and get the community, the unions, the faith-based community to picket Trinity, which is a parent company of Mercy Hospital. And for a year, through rain, sleet, snow, we picketed and protested the closure of that hospital, and we were able to keep that hospital open. If the hospital would have closed, it would have been a health care desert in the community. Not only is it a hospital that serves the African American community, it serves other nationalities all across the city of Chicago. It's a safety net. So that means that anybody, whether you can pay or not, can come to that hospital. And so for me, it was important that we keep that hospital open, and I was successful in doing that.
Well, isn't that powerful, Angie?
It is very powerful. I mean, he said humbly, I was the first. And I love that, because when you see something that needs to happen, and nobody else is doing anything, we have to give advent and recognition for those who are trailblazers to make sure that we have what it is that we need. And so we thank you for being the first and noticing that a change needed to take place.
And that was very significant to me as a person, because I don't know Chicago politics like that. And to hear and to have heard that hospital, but then I did value it. Again, coming from where I'm coming from and seeing it there, and how, we'll drive through it, we'll drop people there back and forth, and to know that it's going away, like, it really troubled me for a lot of reasons. But I was just an individual going through all those thoughts. And then years after, to hear that it's no longer going to be closed for whatever reason, and to know that a politician played a very significant role in saving the hospital for the neighborhood and for the community at large, that
is extremely commendable. Yes.
That felt good. That made me get a good feeling about politicians. And because there are bad ones and good as well. And so I think that it just goes to the point that we need to still keep paying attention. And then because there are good and bad, but of course there are some good ones that are doing things for the communities. And so that was very significant. And healthcare is special to everyone. So it's me during my undergrad, I took a course, actually have a degree in healthcare. So it's a very important subject. But anyway, we do have a comment that I would like Angie to respond.
Sure. We thank Krista. I saw that Krista Janella, who actually gave us a very extensive list of the endorsements that State Representative Lamont Robinson has. And so I just want to name off just a few of them. President Tony Preckwinkle, as he mentioned, Congressman Robin Kelly, Alderman Brian Hopkins, Alderman Matt Martin. We have Senator Robert Peters, Senator Matty Hunter. He has a very long list. Jesse White, Secretary of State, Treasurer Mike Frericks, Speaker Chris Welch, who he's mentioned. And so we do thank you, Krista Janella, for those who are listening and are active a part of this live feed. We do encourage you to look at the list that Krista Janella has actually provided in the live feed, and you will actually be able to see all the endorsements that he has already gotten for aldermen running for the 4th Ward. So we thank you again, Krista Janella. Nyla Ali says impactful. So we thank you for that.
Great. Thanks for chiming in, Krista Janella.
Yes.
The number to ring in if you want to support Representative Robinson for his candidacy, you want to call it, you want to ring 815-277-5047. If you're watching us live, it's actually at the right bottom corner of the screen, 815-277-5047. If you also have questions for him, please go ahead and do so. In the next maybe 5 minutes, we will try and wrap up. And I think Krista sent the website
She did.
for representative. So when I was looking at these people that have endorsed you, these are some very powerful people in the state of Illinois, in the county, in the Cook County, and also in the city of Chicago. I must ask, what makes Representative Robinson very peculiar, or I'll say very, very peculiar to have gotten all this endorsement from these powerful houses or powerful politicians in the state, county, and the city? Rep, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I want you to respond to what makes you stand out to have gotten the endorsement from these very powerful politicians in the state, county, and the city of Chicago.
You know, many of them I had worked with, as I had mentioned a little earlier. I had worked with Congressman Danny Davis prior to being elected. And again, just drawing circles and not lines for me, and being able to reach out to many of them when I needed help as it relates to Saving Mercy Hospital and also supporting them. Look, everyone wants Chicago to be successful. And so many of them understand that we cannot just look at the 5th floor. We have to look at city council. And so many of the folks that you see there who represent the city of Chicago, they're supporting me because they know that I will do what I am supposed to do, and that's the right thing, and that is do right by the citizens of the 4th Ward and the citizens of the city of Chicago. And so that's why you see that long list of supporters that are elected officials all across the county, the city, as well as the state.
Awesome. Angie, I don't know if you already asked that the diaspora question.
I haven't, but I had another question before we go to that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Which was, what do you know about the schools in your wards? I want to acknowledge Naila, who's actually listening. She was asking some questions and making comments that I was keenly interested in concerning the youth. And so I wanted to know, what do you know about the schools in your ward, and how productive are they, or what changes that need to take place to provide our youth with better education?
Awesome.
And so as a state rep, I meet regularly with my principals, and I will continue to do that as an alderman. There is some issues around equity in our neighborhood schools. And so I'll take one high school that needed some MacBooks as well as some pads, and I was able to connect them to Apple. And so for me, it is meeting with folks, understanding what their issues and concerns are, and being able to be helpful. And so a lot of our schools need resources, whether that be to the building or whether that be technology. And so as the next alderman in the 4th Ward, I'm going to continue to do that work, understanding what the needs are of each school, whether that again be in the classroom or outside the classroom, and or the actual building. I want to make sure that across the 4th Ward, that all of our schools have the same resources, that all of our schools, that kids should be proud to show up to school because they have classrooms that are painted, or they have a school that the grass is cut and there's no trash outside those schools. I think that a lot of the issues that we're facing in Chicago are really basic around making sure that we have clean schools and schools that have good and proper and up-to-date technology. And so I look forward to continue to do that work as the next alderperson in the 4th Ward.
Awesome. And I think maybe one more question, and then we'll try to wrap up due to our time. Go ahead, Angie.
Yes. So I'll try to wrap it up in two different ways. So one of the questions, the Progressive Minds radio show and the mission and the statement, we are definitely about the African diaspora and making sure that we are able to bridge the gap globally as well as here at home within Chicago. How, in fact, can this tie into our mission and what your campaign is about?
Well, look, I have been fortunate enough to travel to Africa. I have been working with folks that are in Ghana. That is our sister city. Ghana, a lot of people don't know, is a sister city of Chicago. And so I want to make sure that our business folks know that there are opportunities in Ghana, and that the Ghanaian government, instead of looking at other governments or cities, can look to Chicago. We have Black folks in Chicago that do business, that want to invest in Africa. And so as an elected official and as the chair of tourism in the State House, I look to Africa to be able to make sure that we support each other. And I want to do that same task as the next alderperson in the 4th Ward. We need to make sure that we're connected as we are in the States and as our brothers and sisters are in Africa. And I look forward to continuing to do that work.
My last question would be this, and thank you for taking the time to answer, is that you are in fact a businessman. And I also read that you are an adjunct professor, if I'm not mistaken, within the city colleges of Chicago. And so how does your experience being a professor at the city colleges of Chicago, as well as being a businessman, kind of help you in your understanding of the community that you're wishing to serve?
Well, one is listening. I think that as an educator, you have to be able to listen to your constituents, which for me were my students, and understanding what their needs and concerns are, and then figuring out how you can be helpful. Is it that we need helpful in writing? If we need helpful in our arithmetic, we need help to be helpful in speech. And so really that experience I take as being a state rep, as an educator, and understanding that we still need to make sure that we're pouring more resources into our city colleges, and we're pouring more resources into our neighborhood schools. And so as an educator, I think that we need even more educators involved in politics, because we need it. And we need to make sure that we're supporting our neighborhood schools, and we need to support our community colleges. And so for me, it's a win-win. And so again, that's even more so the reason that I believe the residents of the 4th Ward should support me as the next alderperson of the 4th Ward.
Wow.
Awesome. We have, I think, 10 minutes to 8 p.m. here. And State Rep Lamont Robinson, thank you so much for your time. I think at this point, without any further questions from Angie, we would like you to give us your closing remarks and why.
I want to thank.
What? Yeah, go ahead.
Putting the horse before the wagon. I just want to thank you both for the opportunity this evening to be able to talk a little bit about my candidacy for the 4th Ward. And then also to my friends in the diaspora, that you have a cheerleader. You have a cheerleader in Springfield as the chair of tourism. You also have a chair in city council. We need to stay connected, both communities. Our communities are disconnected, but we need to make sure that we stay connected. And so with me supporting me, you will certainly have that in the city council. And so I'm just extremely appreciative, whether you live in the 4th Ward or not. I hope that you support me as the next alderperson in the 4th Ward.
What is the number?
The best number to reach me?
Your office to support your line, and then your punch number.
Sure. My punch number is number 54. And the best number to reach my campaign is 773-619-3540.
Wonderful.
Angie.
I have thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you, State Rep Lamont Robinson. We certainly here on the Progressive Minds radio show wish you the best of luck and Godspeed. We thank you so much for taking the time to answer all of our questions there at the state capitol. I have been totally enlightened about, how the wards work, what neighborhoods you serve, what you intend on doing when it comes to the schools that you serve in conjunction with what you've already done. And so again, we just wish you the best. Thank you so much. I do want to give a shout out to both Naila and Krista. I really thank Krista for itemizing all those people who are endorsing. That was very useful. Yeah. And so to that end, we are back in the hands of our visionary, Senator Alenko.
Oh man, thank you. This has been an eye-opener. State Rep, thank you for coming on the show. I've gotten the chance to learn more about you and your impact in the state of Illinois, the county, and what you intend to bring to the ward, for the fourth ward here in Chicago. And to our audience, we hope that you've gotten the chance to learn more about these candidates, candidates that are running for office, and what you want to do with the information that you've heard this evening. I want to thank everyone that supported the show, those that called in. Great show this evening. Next week, we will be back here, hopefully to talk to some more candidates who are vying for office, especially the alderman office. We'll also get you some mayoral candidates who wants to run the city of Chicago, and other very interesting topics. Remember, the show has been switched now from Wednesdays to Tuesday, same time, 6 to 8 p.m. We are here on Sundays as well, from 4 to 6 p.m. Tell friends and family members that this is where we build our community, so your voice is needed. Angie, once again, thank you for a great job today. Looking forward to next week. Remember, to whom much is given, much is required. This has been Senna, your host, and then my co-host,
Angie Mims.
See you next week. Bye-bye.